Lord be with you.
And also with you.
The Lord be with you. And also with you. Oh, we're glad to see you on this beautiful Sunday morning. Amen. Amen. I don't know. Lord, she's made some great weather over the last few days. And we're really glad that we resisted the temptation to walk on Skyline Drive. Here to join us today to talk about food. How many of you had breakfast? It's good. How many people have ever been hungry for a day in their life? Being really hungry when there was nothing in the cupboard. The refrigerator was just bigger. You can kind of imagine your way into that life. We have Jane Conley Mills here from Loaves Fishes to talk with us about food insecurity, about our Charlottesville Alamo ecosystem for food and the relationships between donated, re-gifted food, and it's just about the tremendous rising need that we see in our community. So we're grateful for Jane. Let's pray, and then I'll turn it over to her, and more people will filter in. Let's pray. Holy God, we give you thanks and praise that you feed us from the table. You break bread and pour out the cup. But you also provide food for our living of our days. We're grateful. But in our gratitude, let us be generous and kind, and let us be beacons of hope in the world. We're blessed to have strong and effective ministries and programs here in our city and county that feed those who are hungry, for there are many. Bless Loaves of Fishes, their volunteers, their donors, their gifters, and all that do their great work. We're glad to have Jane with us this day, so let us give her our hearts and our attention. And all God's people said, Amen. I'll be back. I'm going to get coffee and then.
Thanks, Jay.
She knows what.
I can figure it out. Good morning. Thank you all for inviting me here today. I know a lot of you. I love looking around the room and recognizing some faces that I know I've spoken to before. Can everyone hear me all right? Because I can go louder. But I don't want to shock anybody on a Sunday morning. I know you're still feeling a little sleepy, so I get it. So I am from Loaves and Fishes. I have been the executive director since 2017. We were founded as a mission of First United Methodist Church and rolled off as a nonprofit in 2011, and then kind of began to grow and grow and grow. I'm the second executive director. We were founded by a very enthusiastic church member, Jerry Denny, who is a local investment advisor. And Jerry saw the need for more food assistance in Charlottesville and partnered with Holy Comforter Catholic Church downtown to kind of learn the business on how to run a food pantry. We started giving out food from a after-school classroom in Jackson Via Elementary. And then in 2013, kind of acquired a space by rent on Greenbrier Drive behind the emergency vet. One of the great things about that location is it was on the bus line. And then in 2014, we purchased the former UPS maintenance facility at 2050 Lambs Road. It has had a couple of lives. It was a bus depot for a while. It was a State Farm training facility for a while. And we adapted that into what's called a client choice pantry, where people can go through and shop for the groceries that they want. So when I entered Loaves and Fishes, that's what we were doing. We were bringing people inside. They sat in a shared waiting room. We did their registration, and then they went through and shopped with a volunteer who helped them to choose food from what we were offering that day. And then COVID happened, and everything changed. We realized that we were an essential business, that we needed to keep operating. So many people started to come to us who had never been to a food pantry before because their economic situation had changed. There was UVA with the furloughs. There were all the service workers in the industry were kind of laid off. And then there was a huge abundance of food that also happened with COVID. All of the institutional buyers like UVA and JMU and Eastern Mennonite had bought all this food to feed the students for the spring semester and didn't know what to do with it, so they started donating it to the food charity world. We didn't have enough storage for it, so we ended up renting a refrigerated trailer that sat on our parking lot for 6 months, I think, while we built another refrigerator. tripling our refrigerated storage size, and then we built another freezer, doubling our freezer size. So we have 4 walk-in cooler units that store and sustain the perishable food that we give out. And I'll give you the rest of my presentation. I can talk extemporaneously, and I'll try not to. Jay really wanted me to have slides. I'm not really used to talking to slides, but I will use them. So Charlottesville, how many people have retired here from elsewhere? And I'm just curious, what brought you to Charlottesville? Because I'm a Charlottesville native, and I always love to ask this question. Do you, grandchildren? To be closer to family. And it's a great place to have kids. Having been raised here, I really love being able to raise my own children here. Of course, they're adults now, so, and I'm not ready for any grandchildren, but it's a great city. It's a great city if you live in privilege. And I don't mean that in any kind of aspersion. I just mean to shine the light on the people who don't live in privilege. And there is a huge amount of poverty, kind of a stunning amount of poverty in Charlottesville. 22% of the families in Greater Charlottesville do not make enough money to afford the essentials of life, which include food, shelter, transportation, utilities, childcare, all of the cost of living in Charlottesville. If you're not familiar, if you're interested in this subject, and everybody read the Poverty by America book, right? This is what Jay kind of based this whole speaking series on. There's a really wonderful book that talks about how there is a persistence of poverty across America that we can't seem to solve. Good morning. And so in Charlottesville, there's a gentleman named Ridge Schuyler who works for PVCC, and he did a study called the Orange Dot Report, and tomorrow they're releasing the 6th version of it. And I was able to reach out to Ridge and get the data early so I could put it into this slide. But it's really kind of stunning the amount of poverty that persists. And these are people who work. These are people who work full time. And I was saying to Charlie earlier, the fact that we're still at $7.25 as a minimum wage in America in 2024 is really kind of awful. That's one of the things that we could do to change people's ability to survive in our community. Cost of housing, of course, is also stunning. So a lot of the people that we help are working full time, but they don't have enough money to get themselves through the month in terms of food. That is the basic definition of food insecurity. You don't have enough money to get through a full month on healthy food. We at Loaves Fishes made a deliberate shift in 2020 when I hired Monica Davis, who is a dietitian, to really focus on giving out healthy food rather than just what we have. So we work with Monica, who works in y'all's soup kitchen as well, and she gets food from us on a regular basis and adds it into what you're making for the soup kitchen. And we love being able to do that. We love being able to supplement other feeding efforts around the city. We have a long-standing partnership with Salvation Army in Haven, who pick up food from us on a regular basis. Yesterday, I was at the Community Bridges event at UVA, and they had all these bagels and all this food that was going to be left over, and I went over to the organizer and I said, please don't throw this out. Please take it to the Haven or Salvation Army on your way home, and he said he would. So, there's just a lot of food in our community. The difficulty is people being able to access it. Charlottesville, by far, has more poverty than Albemarle County, but Albemarle County is also a much, much bigger place and has a lot of disparities in income. With a lot of the kind of farther reaching communities like Dyke and Scottsville and some Afton, certainly kind of bleeds over into Fluvanna. We don't limit where people live, so you don't have to live in Charlottesville or Albemarle. You can come to Loaves and Fishes and say, I need food, and we're going to get you food. We have a lady who comes from Bath County who does medical treatment at UVA Hospital. So UVA is a big draw, and if you are on Medicaid, that's where you have to go. Centera will send you to UVA for Medicaid care. And so we see a lot of people who have been drawn to UVA for medical treatment who then come to us and get food. We try very hard to accommodate any kind of dietary limitations that you might have, and so we've had, one of the memories that I'll never be able to get out of my mind is the gentleman who had just been discharged from hospital, still had his feeding tube in, and he came to Loaves and Fishes for food and asked if we had any feeding fluid, and we did. That was a miracle, it just happened to align that day that he showed up and we had some. So, and having a dietitian on staff is super helpful because she can then talk to them about any kind of limitations they have on eating, whether they have the dental ability to chew and bite, whether they can digest certain foods. We accommodate gluten intolerance, lactose intolerance, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, try to make sure that the food we're giving them is going to help them stay healthy or make them feel better. And that touches on this. The incidence of chronic disease in people who experience food insecurity is greatly enhanced because when you don't have a lot of money, you tend to buy processed foods, which are less good for you. So we are investing a lot of effort at Loaves and Fishes into teaching people how to eat whole foods, how to eat foods from their original form. But that's hard. If you don't know how to cook, if you don't have the facility to cook, if you don't have the ability to store fresh food, it's a challenge. So we try to meet people with their needs where they are and then assist them in learning how to eat better. Child food insecurity, of course, is one of the greatest problems in our country, and everybody tends to focus on the child because these are small units that we're trying to bring up to be productive members of our society. And we see in a lot of the families who come to the pantry that the parents often will not eat in order that the child might. So we do try to work with families with children to make sure that they're getting the right kind of food for the kids. One of the interesting things that we've noticed is that when you offer a new type of food and the parent says, oh, they won't eat that, the kid often will say, I want to try it. And so we're usually really successful in introducing new foods through the children. They're much more adaptable and willing to try new foods. You might, if you've heard me talk before, our original mission was to give food with kindness and compassion to anyone seeking assistance while offering an opportunity for people to volunteer in the community. We are still pure to that mission, but we recently went through strategic planning and kind of rewrote our mission in order to encompass some of the community engagement that's really important to what we do. We want to help people have a voice in what we're giving them. So we really want to be sure that people who are coming to us for food have a chance to say, I really don't like that. I'm not going to eat it. Give it to me. I don't know how to cook dried beans. Please don't give those to me. I don't have any way to cook, or I don't know how to cook. What can you give me that I can eat easily? So we're trying very much to listen to people and hear what they want and give them what they want and give them some agency in what they're receiving, which I think is really important. When you're giving somebody something, you want to make sure they're going to use it. I kind of went through our history already, but you can see how small we were in 2004 when we started. We gave out 56,000 pounds. In 2023, we gave out 2.4 million pounds of food to 100,000 people. Those are duplicated individuals, so that it's about, I think it was 67,000 unduplicated people, but it is because every time somebody comes to the pantry for food, we have to invest the same amount of effort. I count every person every time. I can't just say, this number of people were all who got food, because they got it multiple times. We currently have, oops, did I go too fast? We currently have 7 full-time staff and 8 part-time staff, and the part-time folks work anywhere from 6 to 20 hours a week. So it's a very, it's a very different operating model. This is not a 9-to-5 business. This is 9 to 9. It's 10 to 1, it's just all over the place. So we really have to be adaptable in the way that we employ people, and I believe strongly that if you speak another language, you should be paid for that skill. And so all of our registration staff who check people in when they come to the pantry speak at least one other language. I have a Spanish speaker at all 4 of our distributions, and then I have an Afghan woman who speaks Dari and Pashto at 2 of them. And so that, again, is another way of helping the people who come to us feel engaged in what we do. And this chart just again shows you what the amount of food that we give out and the numbers of people. The bottom line is something that I like to highlight. When we started, we gave out all shelf-stable foods, so canned and dried foods, and now 64 or 65% of what we give out is perishable. So every household who comes to the pantry receives milk, eggs, fresh produce, fruit and vegetables, and it's always a variety. I can't remember, Alice or Larry, have you all done a produce shift? Have you done a produce? You have? Yeah, and it's a real variety of stuff. The stuff that we get from the grocery stores, so we pick up food from the grocery stores 5 days a week, and you just never know what you're going to get. It's always a surprise. And so we go through and we try to put all the like items together when we sort through it, and then we try to build these produce bags that are a variety of fruits and vegetables. We give food to certain partners in the community. That's First Pres for the soup kitchen. It's Salvation Army, it's Haven, a number of other pantries, including there's a small food pantry at the Lutheran Church up on 29, whose name has just escaped me, Peace Lutheran. And then we also give to Buck Mountain Episcopal in Earlysville and the Emergency Food Network here in town. We share excess produce mostly that we have with those other pantries so that they can kind of expand what they're able to give out to the people who come to them. And then any food that we would not eat ourselves, and this is the margin that we use, everything we look at, we're like, would you eat that? If we won't eat it ourselves, it goes to pig farmers. And so we have pig farmers kind of all around Albemarle County. I don't think they come from any farther than that, but they'll pick up, 1,000+ pounds at a time and take it home and feed it to their livestock. We do have some chicken farmers, but mostly it's pigs because pigs are pretty indiscriminate eaters, and they will eat anything. They'll eat pig. I mean, we have given everything to these pig farmers, and they'll take milk, they'll take frozen meat that's in broken packaging, they'll take cakes. So pigs are our main market. But the thing that I find stunning is I have yet to get a pig donated back. I keep waiting for that pig to come back. Oop. Well, I don't know what I just did there. I went too fast, I think. Hang on. One moment. Close your eyes. All right. As I said earlier, our visitors come to us from all over the area, but I just wanted to share some of the percentages. In terms of the surrounding counties, we do get these far-reaching visitors from Loudoun and Bath, Cumberland, who doesn't make any sense to me, but will invest the gas to drive all the way up to Charlottesville to get food from us. But we do see a lot from Buckingham and Louisa. Fluvanna obviously is very nearby. There are very few resources for food assistance in Fluvanna. And I have been talking to Greg Winston, who's a former hospital administrator who's part of Move to Health Equity, which is one of the many kind of food support, food equity groups that I'm part of. And we're trying to figure out how Fluvanna can get a better, what is it doing? It's just driving itself. I also wanted to share that the demographics of the population that we serve in terms of language, gender, and age. I didn't really share gender, but you typically will see more women coming for food than men. Although I will say that the Afghan population is now skewing that the other way because Afghan women typically are not allowed out in public with men to whom they are not related. So we see usually the male head of the household coming to get the food. And interestingly, I mentioned my Afghan employee, Hamida. when she first came to work for me, she did not wear a headscarf. And I said, why don't you? And she said, because I had to in Afghanistan and I don't have to here. Then she started wearing one. And I said, what's going on? And she said, I am much more respected if I wear a headscarf. And it's because she's dealing with Afghan gentlemen who didn't respect her because she was scarfless. So she's very, very savvy. I have learned a lot about their culture through her because she really does understand these people who are arriving. She's been here since 2018, so she and her husband came quite early into the Afghan resettlement into Charlottesville. But in 2021, when the borders closed, Charlottesville was destined to get 250 new residents, and I know you work with IRC as well, or is it just International Neighbors? I'm looking for guidance.
International Neighbors was a partner,
yes. And they have done a tremendous job to acclimate a lot of new visitors or newcomers to our community. And I don't know if you all know the International Rescue Committee's process, but they essentially have 90 days from the day they land on U.S. soil to get them into a job, into a house, children in school, and then they're by, and they move on to the next group. So that's where International Neighbors has come in and stepped in to help a lot of these new families kind of acclimate to our culture. And we work with IRC, we work with International Neighbors, we work with pretty much anybody who's encountering someone who's experiencing challenges with food. Our food comes from about half of it from the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank, about 32% from grocery stores. We are assigned a relationship with grocery stores around the community, so we pick up on a regular basis from Sam's, Costco, Wegmans, Giant, Aldi, 2 Kroger's, 2 Food Lions. And that is something that you can't have a volunteer do. You really need a staff member. So I have a staff member who drives a refrigerated truck all around town every day and picks up food. And we go into the stores often through the back door. It's kind of hidden. It's like we're sneaking it out. And that's actually where we coined the phrase, "Would you eat that?" Because one of my staff members at one point went into a store and what had been presented to him to pick up was basically rotted food. And he said, I can't take that back and give it to anybody. You're asking us to take your trash. So we spent some time re-educating the grocery stores on what we want and what we can give out. We get a little bit from local gardeners, and then we buy about 15% of the food that we give out. And that is primarily milk and eggs and then some produce. And that comes primarily from Bel Air Farm. So I don't know if you can see this. Now that I look at it on the screen, it looks too small. But there's a lot of questions about the difference between Loaves and Fishes and the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank. They are our #1 partner. But we are the people who give out the direct service to the food. But without the food bank, we could not access any of the USDA food that is available to the food charity industry. We couldn't access any of the food from the grocery stores. You can't just walk into Wegmans and say, hey, I'm here to feed some people, can you give me some free food? That's an assigned relationship. We are given that role by the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank. So we need to have their permission, essentially, and we sign a contract with the stores, the grocery stores, some of them, not all of them do it. And then we pick up their food on a regular basis, and they then, in turn, the grocery stores write it off. There was the Good Samaritan law that was passed in the Clinton administration that allows retailers to donate food to a charitable organization that they then can write off of their records. We track every pound by weight. We weigh everything that we receive in donations. We use a shared database that is used across America. It's called Meal Connect, and it's run by Feeding America. And we track all of the food that's given to us by the grocery stores. So it's a visible database to the food bank and to us and to the stores. We all have this transparency about who's getting what food and giving out what food. I met with somebody from the city of Charlottesville. I was asking for funding, of course, because that's what I do. And he said, well, since the food bank funds you, and I said, stop right there. They do not fund us. We get food from the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank, but none of the money that is donated to them comes directly to the pantries like ours or to the soup kitchen here at the church. That money is for running their operation, which is a sourcing, storage, and distribution operation. But their distribution system comes to food pantries like Loaves and Fishes or Holy Comforter Catholic Church or who else? I can't think of it. New Beginnings Christian Community. A lot of food distribution is done through a faith-based organization. It's just, those are all partners of the food bank. And the other thing is that Loaves and Fishes is not affiliated with any other organization or entity called Loaves and Fishes anywhere in America. Not ours. I have people all the time who come to me and say, oh, I volunteered at Loaves and Fishes in San Diego. I'm so glad to have found you here. And I said, I'm so glad you found us here too, but we're not connected. So there is no national Loaves and Fishes or Fish and Loaves or any of it's just a really fantastic biblical name. And it really speaks to what we do. So I just wanted to clarify, and Alice and Larry had asked that I do this because there is a lot of confusion about the difference between the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank and entities like Loaves and Fishes. I will say that we are the largest food distribution organization in Charlottesville in terms of the volume of food that we're giving out and the people that we're helping. But when you see the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank's numbers, ours are in there. When they're reporting how much food they've given out, that includes Loaves and Fishes, it includes Loudon Hunger Relief, which is they're the number one food distributor in the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank network. We're number 2. Took me 7 years to get that out of the food bank, to find out where we ranked. Not that I'm competitive, but I just wanted to know. So we give out 4 days a week. Tuesdays by appointment for 3 hours, and we currently offer 144 appointments in that 3-hour period. And then Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday are what we call drive-through distributions, and we had 201 households yesterday?
I heard over 200.
It was over 200.
That's a lot of Christian cards.
Yeah. So on those drive-through days, that's what we're anticipating now in the 3rd and 4th weeks of the month, and that's typically because anyone who's getting any kind of federal support, supplemental security income, SNAP benefits, TANF, WIC, any of the Medicaid, any of those supports that might go a little bit towards food, they're typically running out by the 3rd and 4th weeks. So next week this week will be very busy, and next week will be very busy too. And then at the beginning of the month, it's a little bit quieter, maybe only 150 households, and then it goes up. And when I say households, think of just an average of 4 people per household, and that'll tell you how many people are coming every day to Loaves and Fishes. And thankfully, we're able to accommodate. If you know somebody who needs food, please point them towards us. Or if they're unable to get to us, offer to pick up food for them. We can accommodate anybody who works as a proxy, who comes in on somebody else's behalf outside of these distribution hours. We don't publish them, but between 12 and 2 on Tuesdays and Fridays, we can help someone get food for somebody else and take it to them. If you have ever volunteered, those who have volunteered, raise your hands again. Thank you very much. There are lots and lots of shifts, lots of different jobs you can do. We have people who answer our phones off-site 6 days a week. We have, and our volunteers' opportunities are between Monday and Saturday. They range from an hour to 4 hours, hopefully not more than that. And then we train you on site. Obviously, it's a very happy place to work. You can see the smiling faces. We do get a lot of people who come in and just keep coming, and we call it drinking the Kool-Aid because it's a fun place to volunteer. We have a great staff, a really supportive staff, and people who've been volunteering for years and just keep coming back. So we're always delighted to have that, and we're always looking for other speakers of other languages because, again, if you come in and you can't communicate in English, it's a painful experience. So we really want to help you. We did have recently a Turkish family, and sadly we don't have Turkish, so they figured it out. There are lots and lots of translation apps, and some are better than others, but it's really hard to use that to speak with somebody, to communicate with someone. We are always, as I say, looking for financial contributions because we have a $1.1 million budget that I raise every year. That is from multiple sources, primarily from individuals and families. But we do a lot of grant writing. We have a very small grant from the city of Charlottesville, and I continue to keep applying for Albemarle with the hope that someday they might fund us. But we're also always looking for diapers and feminine sanitary supplies, which are items you cannot buy with SNAP benefits. You can't buy personal care items with a SNAP card. So those items will go out the door in no time at all. People, yes?
Would you rather have money to buy them yourself or have them given to you?
I would rather have money to buy food myself. Diapers and feminine sanitary supplies, I don't have a wholesale line on, so yeah, I would rather have them, I guess. And it's a great thing for a church or a sorority or somebody to do a fund drive for. Albemarle High School has been doing a diaper drive for us recently. The thing is, once we get them in, they're gone in a week. We just cannot keep them in stock. We do get our adult diapers, which we give a lot out of through All Blessings Flow, which is a fantastic organization that rescues used durable medical equipment, which is very expensive, and cleans it up, repairs it if needed, sanitizes it, and then gives it for free to anyone who needs it. So they've been one of our longtime partners. And then this is just our contact information. This is actually our dietitian, Monica Davis, working on a mobile kitchen. This is a kitchen that has 2 induction burners, a convection oven, a refrigerator, and a sink, and you can take it anywhere. And it's just a fantastic unit that we bought before we had a kitchen on site. We do offer cooking classes. If you encounter somebody who says, I don't know how to make my own food, send them our way. Because that's what we really like to do, is show people basic cooking skills so that they can feed themselves. And we work with a lot of the food that we give out so that they're familiar with how they could prepare something they might receive at Loaves and Fishes. So I'm going to stop there and just ask, yes?
Just as you changed or try to change your philosophy of obtaining foods that are healthy, has the grocery stores changed that, or they just trying to give you whatever is past due on that day? Or whatever?
They pretty much give us whatever, but we're really strict about our dating. We have been able to get some stores like Giant to give us more produce just by talking with them. I think a lot of them think that people don't want produce, fresh produce, but they are turning. But it takes a lot of education. It all depends on the staff member in the stores too, that you're encountering, and whether they appreciate what we're doing with the food. I will say that meat is the least donated item, so that's the thing that we kind of struggle to have enough of. Yes, and we still get a lot of cakes and bread. Yes?
Over 50% of your donations come from the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank. Do you know what percentage of theirs comes to of their total distribution comes to just Charlottesville area?
I don't know that figure. I can find it out.
And have they ever been a little remiss in delivering, the allotted amount? You'd never get enough for that, probably.
Don't ask me that question. So we order weekly. We get a prescribed list from them that says this is what's available. And I've been tracking it this year, and I've watched it do this over the months, and it's really strange, and I haven't challenged them on that yet, but I want to know why, as the second largest pantry in their network, we don't get all the food that we ask for.
And another related question. In your earlier discussion, you mentioned about Charlottesville, where they stand for that. How does that compare with other comparable communities in the state of Virginia? Are you seeing more people coming here for that? I mean, in terms of numbers, like your figures show?
In terms of needing food or coming into the community to live?
Needing food or that.
Well, one of the realities we've heard from...
Because it might be a drawing card.
Yes, absolutely. So Loudoun and Charlottesville tend to have the highest usage as well as the highest distribution in terms of...
State of Virginia.
In Virginia.
Is the highest number.
Well, in the Blue Ridge Area Food Bank Network. No, I would say that Northern Virginia and Richmond and Tidewater, but those are different food banks, so I don't really know their numbers. But they're probably seeing a similar, everybody is seeing a slam right now. We're all getting hammered for food.
Lynchburg. I don't know how Lynchburg.
So Lynchburg is in the food banks network. And I know that they have a larger distribution group down there as well. So, you know, it has to do with employment, it has to do with economy and what's available. So it depends on you know, what the needs are there. But I'm unfortunately very focused on Charlottesville. That's a great question, though. Yes.
So I just want to thank you.
Thanks, Jan.
Because I had employees who were furloughed at UVA.
Yes.
And there are a lot of people at UVA that can't afford to live in Charlottesville
Yep.
or even Albemarle County because they just don't make enough money.
Yeah.
But I really wanted, you know, even, I mean, people don't really understand this, but even teachers in Charlottesville City and Albemarle County make less than $50,000.
They do.
Many of them
They do.
make less than $50,000 a year. So they can't, I mean, that puts them in your at-risk group.
Yeah.
And so I just want to thank you because I think this stuff is incredibly important. And knowing that people can go and get the things that they need to have is, you know, just wonderful.
Well, and also hopefully not feeling it's a terrible stigma
Right.
to do it. We try really hard to make people feel comfortable, but there is something very demeaning about having to come and sit in a parking lot and have somebody come and ask your information. But we did learn through COVID that letting them stay in their cars actually was a safety measure for a lot of people. I mean, before, people had to come inside and their name was called out in front of everybody, and it was really painful. And so we've kept everything outside. I think I just killed my presentation. We kept everything outside because we figured it was a way to give people a chance to be anonymous.
Have some level of
Yeah.
Yeah, and I will tell, I mean, I don't know how many people know much about the furlough that happened at UVA, but I will tell you my staff had 3 weeks
Yeah.
to
Figure it out.
to know that they were no longer going to be paid for the next 9 weeks.
Yeah.
9 to 12 weeks.
Yeah.
And it was a crisis.
And it was, were you a nurse then, or were you with CME then?
I was with CME.
Yeah, because
I was the only office in the dean's office in the School of Medicine that totally got furloughed.
wow.
And they took every one of my staff.
And we had medical staff as well. We had
Okay.
people from every imaginable state in the
I mean,
university.
They did, I mean, because they quit doing elective surgeries, they quit doing all kinds of things, and they just, I mean, and people didn't get much notice. So that's the part that was probably the hardest.
Yeah.
Was that, you know, 1 month you think you're fine, and most UVA employees, I mean, they get paid every 2 weeks, but some of the medical faculty and some of, like, faculty people like me, I mean, and I took a 20% pay cut. So, you know, there was that on top of it. So there were just people everywhere that were just being slammed. And most people don't realize it because UVA is so big and
Right.
they don't really think about it. But it happened on the food service side, it happened on the student services side.
Yeah.
It was really more of a crisis than what anybody discussed.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing us back to that.
I'd like to speak in support of what Jan is saying, that what I don't think that Charlottesville residents in general recognize is that incoming new faculty to the University of Virginia cannot afford to live within the city limits
Yep.
of Charlottesville.
Yeah.
They can't live here, and they're in the same, and this is pre-pandemic,
Right.
that there's not enough money coming to those incoming faculty, and it really is a challenge in terms of even having housing within driving distance of coming to school. The commutes are huge. So I think it's interesting, and I'm so taken with everything that you said. I met you the first time when you were here for an event out in our lobby area, and it was way too short. This was wonderful getting
Thank
to know
you.
this. But I do think that we make assumptions about the way people dress and the cars they drive,
Yes.
that they actually have the money.
Yes.
And they're very often going so deeply in debt that.
And if you don't have a car in this community,
Come to even come
Yeah,
close to
yeah.
those visions.
yeah, the transportation issue is you know, CAT just released new routes, and I was like, I didn't hear anything about this, and I had to read the article, and it really didn't change much. They increased the frequency a little bit, which helps.
How close does CAT come to Loaves Fishes?
Half a mile away. Our closest bus stop is at Georgetown and Hydraulic. But we're giving out 100 pounds of food, at least. So
You're not gonna take that on the bus.
you're not going to take it on the bus, and you're not going to take it up Lambs Road, which has no sidewalk, no shoulder.
Yeah.
Someone can come and join.
Yes, people come on Jaunt and they come on Microcat, which is a magnificent new thing. It's a point-to-point service that serves, I'm sorry, I'll be with you in just a minute, serves 29 North and Pantops. But you can't get through the city on it, so.
You said somebody wants to come in, you've got a family of 4, one of the adults has died. You actually put together for them, you say you got 4 people, this person's gluten intolerant, this person's diabetic, and you already have them, you put together a package for them, they drive up, and then you give that to them?
Yes.
How does that done?
So we review a menu with every household who comes in, and then we build a grocery cart according to what they tell us they can eat. And so if it's diabetic, our question is, do you want some sugars or no sugars? And if it's a household where one person's diabetic and the rest aren't, then we will give them some sugars because the others might like some. If they're gluten intolerant, we give them what we have. We also do halal, but we don't have a lot of halal meat for the Afghan population or the Muslim population, but we always have fish. So we do customize the cart to the household, both by size and by dietary needs. And then when they receive it in the parking lot, if they say, I really don't want that cake that they gave me, they can leave it in the cart and we'll just take it back. So they're given total autonomy to take what they want from what we offer. There are very few people who will sort through the bagged items. Our produce, our meat, and our USDA products are all in bags, but there are some people who will, because they've got too many 2-pound bags of rice and they don't need another one, so they'll give that back. But we do try to accommodate and customize to their needs.
You get a rabbi coming in to quantify the kosher food, or that certified, I guess is more.
We rely on labeling for that, so we don't have anybody who comes and blesses it. It's already been done at the manufacture point. At one point, I was thinking about, getting into the halal business and, buying a cow and having somebody do the prayer and the sacrifice and the proper processing, but then other things happened and I didn't. So, and quite honestly, I don't want to get into butchery, but but there's definitely a need for more production of certified products like that. Well, thank you all.
Thank you so much.